Well, today, lawmakers are now demanding answers following the abrupt shutdown and reopening of airspace over El Paso. Congressman Adam Smith, the ranking member on the House Armed Services Committee, tells MS Now that the situation in El Paso calls into question the Trump administration's basic competence. And he is demanding to know whether the Pentagon allowed Customs and Border Protection agents to use anti-drone technology near that airport in the days leading up to the FAA ordering this closure. That is one of the many explanations given about why that airspace was closed, leading to hours of chaos and confusion. Let's bring in MS Now senior national security reporter David Rode and former Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr. David, members of Congress are now demanding an investigation. There's still so much confusion about what really happened with those 24 hours of basically less than 24 hours, but in the last 24 hours, we haven't been able to get all the answers to why it was closed for 10 hours. What do we know?
So it was a crazy morning yesterday. I was in Washington, and members of this comes out that they're going to shut down the airport for 10 days. Members of Congress said this was this use of this new laser weapon that can shoot down drones. And then what was so strange was right after that, Sean Duffy, the Transportation Secretary, came out and said, oh, no. There was an incursion of drones being flown by drug cartels from Mexico. And that's why we shut down the airspace. And everyone else is saying that's false. That is not true. There was infighting between the FAA and the Defense Department. And the real question here, you mentioned this, is there are some reports that the Pentagon let Customs and Border Patrol agents use this high-energy laser several days ago. And the FAA sort of said, what's going on here? There's an airport right in this area in El Paso. We don't want high-energy lasers being fired into the air when there's civilian aircraft. The FAA got so little information that they retaliated and said, okay, we're going to shut down this airspace for 10 days. And then they backed off testing the laser.
So, Barbara, what do you make of this lack of coordination, or is it a communications breakdown between the FAA and the Pentagon?
Well, I think it's total lack of coordination. And as David just pointed out, conflicting stories. We're more than 24 hours past this, and we still don't really know what happened. There's a lot of versions of it out there. But the bottom line is, since 9/11, there are very strict military rules about shooting down anything over U.S. airspace. It really is the job of the U.S. military. And by all accounts, military personnel who would be responsible for this kind of activity didn't know anything about it. So the question is, it really goes to Pete Hegseth and Sean Duffy. Did Hegseth give DHS personnel and transportation personnel the authority to use this weapon? We don't know. There's some discussion that Hegseth came to some agreement with DHS that they could try it out, so to speak, but there are other reports out there that when they used it, what they wound up doing is shooting down essentially party balloons that were flying overhead. But the FAA simply apparently decided that they couldn't trust that the airspace was safe, so they shut it down.
Now, we don't really know if they were shutting down, or I should say shooting down, drones, which was the public official answer given by administration officials, or if it was testing, and were there party balloons involved? Barbara, how unusual is it if this was just testing of a weapon like this apparent high-energy laser so close to civilian populations?
Well, I guess one of the questions I would have after covering the military for so many years is if it's what happened, why did DHS need to have it in their hands, and who authorized that? That's very serious business. Now, the U.S. military has been testing in fairly deserted areas, no population centers, some of this new advanced anti-drone technology, because there is a lot of concern. Drones, there have been a lot of drone intrusions over U.S. airspace. We have seen balloon-type items being, taken out of the sky, shot down, essentially. So this new technology is very critical to keeping U.S. airspace safe and keeping airspace safe overseas where U.S. forces may be operating. There's no question about that. But the unanswered question, I still think, may be, if it was in DHS hands, who authorized that, and should they be having that technology? For up until now, it's been the U.S. military.
Yeah, DHS, Pentagon, FAA, all pieces of this story here. David, do we know what's next when it comes to this laser technology?
We don't know. And look, it's a legitimate issue trying to down these drones. But also, a congressional official said that these Mexican cartels have been flying drones into U.S. territory. They look for where Border Patrol agents are placed, and then they try to send smugglers with drugs around them. But that's been a problem for many, many years. And I think the real question is, again, why would Customs and Border Patrol have this weapon? You have, again, CBP agents across the country in Minneapolis, carrying out these operations. Why does Border Patrol or CBP have so much power and so much hardware?
Well, keep digging for us. Thank you so much, David Rode.